Thanks for checking out our podcast. If you are interested in learning more about writing, go check out our syndication page, seriouswriter.com, where you can find resources, articles, videos, topical classes, and the Brew and Ink podcast. Again, seriouswriter.com. We thank you for listening.
All right, and welcome everybody back to another Brew and Ink podcast. We are here tonight with myself, Steven, we've got Britt, and we have Katie.
Hey there.
What's up, everybody?
How's everyone doing today?
Doing
good?
Well. It got hot in Georgia.
I was going to say, nobody melted today, did they? I was outside at a park right in the midday, and it was hot.
For church, right? You guys
so we went there
out
for church.
Yeah.
We had our church service at the park, which was fine because we were under a pavilion for that. But then the kids wanted to go play on the playground.
Oh, sure.
And they were on the side of the playground where there was absolutely no shade at all. Except for where they, up in their little kingdom up there, they climb up into this tower, and it was nice and shaded and a great breeze. But us down in the parent area couldn't even sit on the sidewall there, the concrete, because it was literally burning through my shorts.
Do your kids have like burn marks on the side of their legs and stuff?
Yeah, it looks like they got whipped or something a whole bunch. No, I think the kids are good. They didn't burn on from anything.
Nobody called defects on you?
Yeah. So yes, it is officially summer here in Georgia.
Officially.
And I don't know how much longer people are going to be able to breathe and wear masks at the same time.
It's a good question.
Yeah, especially after it rains and the humidity level goes through the roof. So
people are going to need to find a good breathable mask. That's all I'm saying. If you're going to do the mask thing, and I think it's going to be more and more, required. Around here in a bit, especially when people start going to school and stuff. So.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm looking into masks that can breathe because my wife, as a teacher, will be required to wear a mask.
Yeah.
While she's teaching a language. And anyway, so all that to say is we are looking into breathable, massive breathe well, because she's going to have to basically have it on for a large portion of the day.
I saw a scientist guy that said a bandana works just as well, and it's more fashionable.
It is.
Wear it around your neck, and then when you need to pull it up. Yeah. You look like a bandito.
You can say, give me all your money.
Give me all your money. Okay. Bandanas? We don't need no stinking bandanas.
It goes right along with our story, right along with our season that we're doing.
Yes. Do you know the context for...
I have no idea. I don't know that reference at all.
What is the original reference? It's not the Three Amigos. I know the...
You mean badges? We don't need no stinking badges?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that from?
Treasure of Sierra Madre. I'm fairly certain was the movie.
And then I know it from UHF.
Oh, sure.
Badgers? We don't need no stinking badgers.
Yeah. I think originally knew it from UHF.
Yes.
And then my father made me watch the actual movie. I think that's how that worked.
Yep. So, speaking of catching up with each other, what have you guys been doing? Let's see, last time we really did something with end of June, so I've had a lot happen in just my personal life since then. But we've had the 4th of July. That just happened. How's everyone doing with their writing and with their projects and things like that?
I am furiously writing, trying to finish and revise a rough draft of a story of a book that I have sent off. I haven't sent the book. I sent a proposal off to a publisher, and the publisher is very interested in it, or a couple publishers are very interested. So I don't know. It's kind of a limbo state right now in publishing for people who don't know, or, I don't know if you care, but because of coronavirus stuff, like publishers they're not moving as quickly, obviously, right? I mean, because they don't have the money, they don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of uncertainty in all kind of, the economy and the markets and stuff.
Sure.
And so it just depends on the publisher. So I'm not super optimistic that it's going to happen soon. So
the more you can get something in front of someone, the more they're going to go, oh, I've seen this guy before. I've seen this before.
And these are these are some publishers that I have some good relationships with, and my agent and I have a good relationship with. So I'm not saying it's going to die on the vine necessarily. I just don't have any optimism that's going to happen like this month or next month.
There's not going to be momentum building up right behind it.
Yeah, and so, but you know, I'm just, but at the same time, I'm trying to work on that. I've been writing a lot, man. I've been writing a lot of stuff, finishing up books, revising books. You know, I've got the 3 books coming out this fall from publishers, and so, but at the same time, something that they don't tell you is how hard it is to keep going when you get published. Like, I didn't realize this. Like, no one told me this.
Right.
And maybe they did and I didn't listen, but it was just totally possible.
In one ear, out the other. And
it could have been.
You've got worlds you're creating here, okay? You got to be thinking about stuff.
I'm fighting dragons over here, guys. But, you know, my agent said at one point, I was talking with him on the phone, and he said, you know, I talk with you more than I do most of my clients. And at first I was like, oh crap, I'm bugging him. I'm annoying, you know. And that's such an artist thing to think, like, oh, I'm annoying.
He doesn't want to hear from you.
And I said, oh, I mean, we don't have to talk that, or whatever. I was getting all. He goes, no. What I mean is that most of my clients, they publish one book, and I never hear from them again.
Right.
And I thought, well, that sounds dumb. Like, when you get published, you should, like, now you're in. Now you're like on that next level of success, and you should keep going. And now that I've published 3 books, or I'm in the middle of publishing them, I totally get why. Because you're never done with a book.
Right.
So, like, you think, well, I turn in the manuscript, and now I'm done.
Now I can focus on the next one. Now I can focus.
You never. That's not. If you're going to focus on something else, you're still working on that other book.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, like, for the rest of your life, you're working on this book.
You got to do promotionals. You got to do questions.
Your promotion. Yeah. You got to work with the rights. You got to work with whatever the next thing is. And that's one of the cool things about publishing is I can still be selling that book when I'm 80 years old.
Right.
I mean, that's the cool thing about publishing is that's the residual income you can have if you do it right for the rest of your life. But so all that to say is, you know, I don't have like a team working for me to take care of that stuff. Like, it's just me, and I already have 2 or 3 or 8 jobs already. Right. So
now, is that the case if you were to be a part of a bigger publishing house? I figured they are kind of the ones that are dry, but you still got to do the legwork on everything.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, you got to answer questions like, "What do you think of the cover? What do you think of this?" Or now the editor is going to start. Now the line editor is going to start. You know, first you have the developmental editor, and now you got the line editor, and now you got to get endorsements, and now we're going to do marketing, and now we're going to do book signings, and now you're going to do interviews, and you see what I mean? Like, you're always doing stuff, but
you're still trying to keep your regular schedule that you had in place for writing and editing.
Exactly. And so anyway, it's just one of those things they don't tell you.
Yeah.
And that's probably the hard part of the transition into being a full-time author is you have to once you're in the game in that sense, you have to keep going. Like, you have to use those relationships and people like you, and you're working well with them, and you're doing what they want you to do, and they're excited, and now you can keep moving. But at the same time, it's not like you finish one book and now you're starting another one. Yeah. So anyway, I've got a couple. The Pack is out there with the publisher, and they really like that. Elowyn, which is, she's a character from the 3rd book of the Eris Chronicles series, and
she's getting her own story.
Yeah, and I didn't have time. When I came up with her character, literally, I came up with her character in the 2nd book and mentioned her name, and I had her whole backstory by the 3rd book, and I went, I can't tell. I don't have room. Like, I got to wrap everything up. I don't have room. So anyway, I'm going back and telling her story and her origin and all that kind of stuff. And the publishers really, I think they're most excited about that one.
You've been putting together some cool book covers for it too.
Yeah, I read some stuff where, there's a lot of experts online, and I read some stuff, and the expert says, you should try to put as much marketing material together, like, so that way the publishers know this is what it should look like, the feel and everything. And then I have another book nonfiction book that the publisher really is excited about too. So yeah, I'm just working on that stuff and trying to keep my head above water with with work and everything else that I'm doing. So
very cool. What about you, Katie? You've been out writing, drawing. Yes.
Yeah, I've been doing some drawing lately. Really getting back into doing ink studies. I've been doing little portraits of my quail. My Tiffany series, all my quail are named Tiffany. And, they all look mostly alike, so it's, all Tiffany. So yeah, I've been doing some drawing. I've been doing Art Fight, which is an art fight. You're on one of two teams and you gain points for your team by drawing the other team's characters.
Drawing them well or drawing them in different scenarios? Or?
Yeah, you get points based on detail and color and background and stuff. So I have to admit I'm cheating a little bit. Last year I did 6 sketches and pretty good stuff, but never finished them. So half the sketches are for characters that are on the opposite team of me this year. So I'm actually finishing those.
Nice.
And posting them.
You were a step ahead, is that what you're trying to say?
Maybe.
Just don't let them listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Just don't put it
Don't
out
tell the Art Fight admins this. But it's nice practice, and I'm playing around with watercolor and ink and trying new techniques, which is what I like, and actually sitting down and making character sheets for my characters, which is a chore. I've never been good at that. Mostly drawing. I've been doing a lot of writing, but in the form of role-playing. Me and my buddy are getting back at it and started a new D&D game. And the Dungeons & Dragons lately has been lit. I've been really enjoying my characters, and I've been helping my buddy come up with scenarios and stuff for his group, which has been a lot of fun. So less writing, but still that storytelling aspect. You know how. So with my friend Tim, who's DMing, I'm helping him come up with some lore for his world and for his players to encounter. And okay, so what would make a good story is having these guys go through this area, but giving them options. If they take this side quest, that'll have consequences if they don't. But if they don't do it, they won't have this thing that they need to defeat the bad guy, and going back and
That's
forth.
The part I think is fun. The developing the gameplay, how characters are going to interact with the world and what kind of other characters are going to be there to come up against, and the story aspect to it. The part that I've always shied away from is all the minutia details of the math and how, all the stuff that the GM does, the game master.
And this is why my friend Tim is the one DMing and not me.
Yeah. So I've never had.
I can come up with the cool stuff that he can translate and use, and he gets to
system.
deal with the math.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Anything else on the writing end? How was writing for this episode?
Oh, waited till last minute, and no, I mean we're still getting there. I did a little bit of world building on the dinosaurs, which I don't think is really written about yet. So it's getting there.
Yeah.
Just to set the scene a little bit. I feel like I really excel at descriptions and stuff, and so spent a little bit of time making things sound pretty.
That should be a catchphrase somewhere. I make things sound pretty.
Mm-hmm. It should be. Or a t-shirt. That could be a t-shirt.
Yes, I make things sound pretty. I'm a writer. For myself, been updating the studio here, trying to get us some new equipment so we can have some better editing abilities and things like that.
Look, man, I'm really impressed.
Yeah.
This is really.
It took me a month to figure out how to get these microphones to mount from the ceiling and be long enough.
Right.
I don't know if the sound quality is any better or not, but it looks cool.
Right.
It definitely looks
cool. It's cool for us, guys.
Yeah.
So we hope you guys can hear how cool it is for us. Yeah, that was fun. On the not writing and podcast side of things, I had to replace a toilet, shower handles and my water heater, all within like a month of each other. So
really, last couple of weeks you were telling me like this. That wasn't even just like a month. That was just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it was the last, pretty much in between the last time we met and now. So yeah, if anyone is looking for a part-time plumber, I have skills, and no, I do not want to get.
No, I was about to say, do not say that to people.
Yeah, right.
That is not the way
that
goes.
was the other thing I had to do, is I had to change my alternator in the van again.
Which Mr. Westwood helped, if he's listening.
Shout out to Westwood. Which was great, and luckily, shout out to my past self, I purchased the lifetime warranty on the alternator part from AutoZone. So all I had to do was just get that free part and then bring over a 6-pack of beer and spend like 3 hours of our time, putting them in and out. But yeah, so I've been active on all the areas where you hope you don't have to do these side projects.
But did you write any stories about them?
Yeah, I should. I should. But I've been enjoying the Western story. So I was writing what we would call the alternate story.
Right.
So what I enjoyed about writing the alternate was just playing with a character's point of view that hadn't been in the story already, and just kind of getting into that whole Western motif and trying to figure out, okay, what would be happening in this part of the town, or what would the strategy be going on over here, while we know that this is what just happened with the main character, but now we've got these people and how they're reacting to, oh, that's that part of the story they mentioned from that side. And so yeah, I enjoyed doing that.
Good.
And writing that as well, and getting back into my sci-fi story. I've been working on that, and it's like one step at a time, one chapter at a time. It's so funny, and maybe you guys can give me your point of views on this, but it's so interesting how you can almost just pick right back up with those characters from, those points of view and whatnot. It's almost like getting back together with old friends, where you just like jump right back into conversations that you had, but when you haven't done something with them in weeks or whatever, and you come back and you're like, oh yeah, this is where I was, and now I know where this is going, and I know what the conversations are, even though you haven't written them out or whatnot. As crazy as it sounds, it's like a secret group of best friends that no one else gets to hang out with until you present them to other readers.
Yeah, that's why I call it book grief when you're done with a book.
Book grief, yes.
I call it book grief. It's like, I didn't realize it the first couple times I was like done with a book. Like, you would think I'd be happy, but I was depressed.
Right.
I was like, why am I depressed? And I was like, oh, I'm not hanging out with my best friends that I've been hanging out with.
Where my friends go?
As someone who has never written a book to completion, but does role play all the time, just, written stuff, I can pick up my characters at any point of time, as long as my RP buddies are there to do it. So it's like, I don't know, I was looking back at some old stuff I had written recently, and I really loved the character I'd been writing and really loved the story that was gonna happen. But the story is dead and gone and isn't gonna come back. And like, there's...
And you won't be able to play with that character anymore.
Like, man, I wish I could have done more with that.
Yeah. Katie here has procured for us the second chapter of Hero is a 4-letter word.
Dos.
And this one is titled The Pursuit. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited to hear you read it.
Booyah.
So, on to the story.
On to the story.
Hero is a 4-letter word. Chapter 2, The Pursuit. Winter came early up on the mountain's shoulders. Arthur Morris could feel it in the morning wind, nipping at his cheeks. It hid in the shadows of the boulders and slip canyons along the wagon trail, like an animal afraid of the sun. But late summer was heating to autumn, and the sun's warmth was fading with each passing day. The snow was already fresh on the mountain tops, and once it came down over the pass, Pride's Creek would be shut off from the rest of the world for months. The thought spurred Arthur on, and he gave his horse a nudge to the ribs. He'd never suffered undue hunger. The family had never wanted for anything. Wealth and good fortune had seen to that. And though he'd only been around Pride's Creek for the better side of a month, he could see what trouble the people, his people, would be in without the supplies coming in. Allagash was only another day's travel ahead, and as the sun lit up the land, he found himself praying that Harris would be there, alive and well. Once he found Harris and secured the route back, he would begin hunting down this Trace Whitaker fellow. The sun lit the mountain slopes, but the valleys were still dark yet when his horse shied and pulled at its bit. It took Arthur a moment to hear the sound of high-pitched whistles and the pad of footfalls behind him, and by then it was almost too late. Strong jaws snapped at his horse's flank, and the animal bolted as another Aquilobo leapt from the left. Arthur swore and managed to draw and fire his pistol, but his shot went wide. He gave the horse its head and turned, aiming at the glowing eyeshine behind him. Despite her gut feelings, Callie let Arthur Morris head to Allagash on his own that evening. As autumn began to fade, her Viajero herds needed to be pushed off the mountain. The neighbors had lost several yearlings and cows to the panther-sized Aquilobos over the last couple weeks, and Callie couldn't afford to keep her animals far from home once the Salvajes began their hunt. She certainly couldn't afford to go off with a new deputy on some days-long errand, no matter whose son he may be. She and River had parted ways a long time ago. There wasn't time for feeling about that now. The morning dawned cold and clear, and as she finished her coffee, a knock sounded on her door. "About time those hands showed up," she muttered to no one but the mice living under her stove. Since the Whitakers had started snooping around, hired help had been hard to come by. Cecil and the two other boys would have a hard time without the extra hands. She opened the door with a smile that faltered and then slid to a frown. Two men dressed in nice wool suits and hats stood on her front porch, the taller of the two carrying a simple leather briefcase. "Good morning, Miss O'Shea," the taller of the two began. "I'm here representing Trace Whitaker, and was hoping we could spare a minute." Callie bristled at the sight of them. "I know who you are, and my answer's the same today as it was last month. We are ready to pay you a very fair price. I'm telling you, I ain't moving. I've been on this land since the day my mother bore me, and I won't be leaving it till the day I die." Callie jabbed a bony finger at the two lawyers in the leather briefcase and their growing frowns. "And you can tell Trace Whitaker I said so, too. Now pack up your money and your paperwork and get the hell out of here. I'm done being nice." The taller of the two men took a half step forward. "Ma'am, if you would just reconsider. I did all the considering I needed when Whitaker bought out half the ranchers out here with paper money and the other half with lead. I don't do business with snakes or salvajes, and let me remind you that I've done killed plenty of both when they bared their fangs at me. Get off my porch and off my property before I start seeing scales." Her hand slipped over the worn walnut stock of her rifle. The lawyer slid his to the brim of his hat and tipped it. "No problem, ma'am. We'll let Mr. Whitaker know you declined his offer." He turned and started off the steps before pausing. "It's a shame to see the Morris boy leave in such a hurry. I think he would have been good for the town. Thank you for your time, Miss O'Shea, and have a good day." Callie watched them step off her porch and mount up on their coursers, long-legged and bird-like saurians that were lucky to have made it this far up her canyon. She watched until the dust they kicked up drifted back to the earth before she finally let down her guard. You don't look away from snakes or lawyers till they were gone. With a snort, she spat, picked up her rifle, and loped out toward the paddock where the young bipedal crashers paced and butted heads together. "Cecil?" she called. "Cecil, where are you?" The lanky man stepped out from around the corner, a coil of rope in his hand. "Yeah, Callie? I changed my mind about going up to Allagash. Just had some company, and I think that new deputy's got himself in trouble." Cecil gave a slow shake of his head. "You don't think he can handle himself?" Callie stalked toward the paddock, past Cecil. "The boy's a fool, and he doesn't know how we live out here." "So you're gonna go show him? Run all the way up there and hope somebody hasn't killed him already?" The set of Callie's shoulders fell for a moment, then straightened. "What I do ain't none of your business, Cecil," she growled. "But I don't think you're too far off. Start moving the herds off the mountain tomorrow. I'll be back soon one way or another. Oh, and Cecil, if any of Whitaker's men show up on my property again, shoot 'em and feed 'em to the Zircudos." Cecil grinned wolfishly and gave another shake of his head. "As you wish. Good hunting, Callie." There's a saying out here, on the northwestern border of the Republic of Texas, that if you wanted to know the lay of the land, you read it in the faces of the people that lived in it. Cali O'Shea's was lined with gullies and canyons, wind-bitten and sun-hardened over the years. The red ochre clay was ground into her skin, and the gray mountains and their distant snowy caps were reflected in her thin braid. The set of her jaw was firm, steep like the edge of the arroyos, and her nose was shaped like the crags, sharp and prominent. The sky reflected in her eyes, unclouded blue and unflinchingly bright. She knew the land as well as she knew her own face, and she relied on that knowledge as she spurred her spotted crasher on over game trails and boulder fields north.
Yeah.
All right, nicely done. So that was episode 2. We've got a little cliffhanger there. We don't know what's going on with our man Arthur.
Yeah.
He's under some sort of Saurian attack.
Something.
Yep. And then we cut back to Callie, and she's under the attack of those that want to buy her land. And she says, "Shove it."
That's right.
And she basically kicks him off the land, but then she realizes, okay, wait, there's more layers to this that's going on right now. I think Arthur might be in trouble. And so she packs up her own Saurian and starts heading out.
That's right. I like that she's on her Saurian, by the way.
Right?
I like that.
Yes. I mean, what would be cooler than riding a dinosaur?
Flying on a dinosaur.
Flying on a dinosaur.
True. That's
very, very true. And maybe we'll get there at some point in this story.
Have a Quetzalcoatlus high-speed chase. That'd be sick.
Oh, snap.
Yes.
I think if we get like 15 people on Patreon, we got to write that episode.
Okay.
That's what I think.
We might write it anyway. It just sounds too much fun. Yes. So now, Britt, you get the honor of writing the next episode. And we have with us the Wheel of Malfortune.
Wheel of Malfortune.
Yes. It's going to determine for us the two choices that we have for this next episode.
For the audience.
Yes.
So what's going to happen? What are the choices again? Do we know?
There's outside forces. Natives. There's a death. There could be a death that happens.
Weather.
And then there's the bad guys.
Dinosaur attack, an encounter with the locals.
Yeah, locals or Saurians. Yeah. So,
all right, let's do it.
Be any of those things. Let's find out.
That is a wounded wheel.
It's a wounded wheel. So we have natives. Okay, and
natives that are going to do something. Maybe. I don't know.
The second choice.
That's be one of the choices.
The second choice will be a weather event. Oh, it could be a weather event. Whether they like it or not. Yeah.
I require this joke every time that one is fun.
So,
all right. So weather event or the natives.
Yes.
And by the way, Katie has come up with some really cool world building with the natives. So I'm actually excited about it. I'm not trying to
I like those
influence
ideas.
It at all. I'm just saying
it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen at some point. We're gonna write it into it because it's just too cool.
It's a Western.
Yeah.
But it's a better twist on the Western.
That's right.
Better than real life.
I don't know about that, but we're trying our best.
Yes. So that is the conclusion of this episode, but we have plenty of other episodes that you can go back and listen to from our previous seasons.
We do.
I mean, we've had Boneyard, which was like a fantasy kind of
a little sci-fi fantasy
thing.
In the 60s.
Wes was remembering he really liked that the murder mystery that
the murder mystery was good. We should revisit putting that together again.
Yeah, that was fun.
We'll have to contact Bill and Evie and everybody and see if they would.
See if we can tune them in.
If we can tune them in and try to
my personal favorite is definitely the flash fiction.
Yes,
the flash fiction was fun.
Flash fiction competition, because it opened up so many different genres and topics and things that we got to write on.
It did. So there's a lot of great stuff to listen to. That's what we're trying to say.
That's what we're trying to say.
It's really all about us, basically.
It doesn't have to end here. You don't have to wait until next week or the next episode.
That's right.
To fulfill your needs for good story.
And check us out on Patreon.
Yep.
Like,
Patreon,
get out there.
Facebook, Instagram,
Patreon. There's some really cool swag that you can get.
Yeah.
And I think it's gonna be great.
We'd rather have 100 Patreons at the $5 level than to have 5 Patreons at the $100 level. You know. So either way, go check us out. And until next time, raise that glass to inspiration and stay inspired, guys.